popular for suicide. He sheathed his sword, then entered his crested carriage. Lord Bright sheathed his own sword, made wary by Curry's good humour. "Giller, step aside with me, if you will." "Why?" asked the pudgy man in alarm. "Because you're my second, you numbskull," Curry said. "Lord Bright is evidently meticulous about these things. Go and assure him that I won't apologise." Giller teetered over on high heels, looking as if he feared to be skewered. Bright said, "It is our duty, Mr. Giller." "Sir Parkwood Giller, my lord." "My apologies, Sir Parkwood. It is our duty to try to effect a reconciliation. Talk to Sir Andrew, and if he changes his mind, contact me at Malloran House, Marlborough Square." "Changes his mind?" declared Giller. "Curry? I should think not. Try instead to convince the Marquess not to commit suicide." He turned, nose in air, and teetered back to his friends. So it was as he suspected. Curry was a professional duellist. Bright entered the carriage, and it moved on, but behind them, singing started again. Bright cursed, but his brother put a hand on his arm. "It will be dealt with tomorrow, in proper fashion, Bright." "Proper fashion? Why the devil are you fighting a man like that? You could have taken a whip to him for singing that song, and no one would have objected." "You think not? This is not autocratic France. And besides, he seemed intent on a duel." "You aren't usually so obliging to those with intent," Bright snapped, for it touched on an issue he'd come to London to raise. Now, however, was definitely not the time. If this went amiss, it would end the issue anyway. Rothgar smiled slightly in the flickering light of the carriage lamp. "The duel would have been hard to avoid, Bright, and I found myself curious as to who wants me dead." Bright looked at his brother. "So you do know the man's reputation? A bully, and probably a cheat, who gets away with it because people are afraid of his skill with a sword. He needs a lesson." "But why from you?" Rothgar was good, damn good, but there was always someone better. He'd drilled that into his younger half-brothers when preparing them for the world. Rothgar didn't answer, and Bright remembered what he'd said. "You think he's a hired killer?" "Devil take it, Bay. Who would want you dead?" Rothgar turned one of his deceptively mild looks on him. "You think me unworthy of hate and fear?" Bright laughed. Rothgar often had that effect on him, but said, "He'll not make a killing matter out of it. Deadly duels can land a man in prison these days. What else is the point? And he's just the sort of rootless rogue to flee to France without a care, especially with a large bag of blood money for comfort." "Whose money?" "That's the interesting question. I fail to see any enemies who would go to such extremes. Rather lowering, really. Surely the passion of one's enemies should mark the stature of one's triumphs." "You probably have enemies you don't even know about." Rothgar's almost playful mood made Bright snappish. "The trouble with being the Dark Marquess and the Eminence Noire of England is it makes it easy for anyone to blame their misfortunes on you." Rothgar laughed. "Like a warty village crone, the sort simple people blame for every misshaped child or suddenly dead sheep." Bright had to laugh too, for a less likely image of his elegant, sophisticated brother was hard to imagine. As the coach halted in the front courtyard of Malloran House, however, humour faded. Did someone want his brother dead? After a restless night, he was still asking that question the next morning when their coach arrived at the area of St. James's Park, close to the gloomy pond. "Devil take it! Why are there so many people here? This is a duel, not a theatrical performance." "Is there any difference?" Rothgar asked dryly as he climbed out of the carriage. Bright could not know if his brother had slept well, but he seemed his normal, unruffled self. Bright climbed down, staring around at the crowd. Most of London society seemed to be here, the male part at least. Behind the fashionable circle in lace and braid clustered the lower orders, bobbing up and down to try to see. Some, by Hades, carried children on their shoulders, and a number of men, women and children were up in nearby trees. In the distance, people massed in the windows of overlooking houses. Flashes of reflected sunlight told him some had telescopes. Anything his brother did was cause for public excitement, but this was damned improper for a meeting of honour. Who the devil had alerted the world?